A mysterious fog blanketed the entire Earth, and with it came terrifying monsters that began hunting down humans. Even the most advanced military weapons were completely useless against those creatures. To make things worse, anyone exposed to the fog for too long would slowly turn to stone and die, and if nothing was done, the entire planet would be swallowed by that darkness. But in the middle of the apocalypse, warriors chosen by the gods emerged with special classes, the only ones capable of facing and defeating the monsters of the fog. They raided dungeons to grow stronger and rid the world of that threat. They were humanity's last hope. With that said, let's head straight to the streets, where a group was fighting a giant wolf. But then, the warrior acting as a shield takes a direct hit. Taking advantage of the opening, his companions prepare to deliver the finishing blow. With a combined attack, they finally manage to bring the beast down. They celebrate the victory and say that using the poor guy as bait was the best call they made. Not caring whether he was alive or dead, the two abandon him on the ground and walk away. And that was the moment our guy found himself in an endless darkness. Hours later, when he opens his eyes, he wonders where he is. The last thing he remembers is pulling overtime at work. But when he looks at his reflection in the water, he realizes that face and that body aren't his. Right after, a flood of unfamiliar memories begins pouring into his mind. He starts seeing flashes of monsters, the fog, and the miserable life that body had been living. That's when he realizes he's been reincarnated in another world as a chosen warrior. But the worst part is finding out he was used as nothing more than a disposable human shield. He's furious when he realizes his only role there was to be a punching bag. That's when a system screen activates, notifying him that he can choose his own rewards. Well, he'd never heard of a power like that before. But with that insane power, he quickly realizes he could become the strongest being in this world. Without wasting a second, he picks a legendary weapon and a set of armor, and the system notifies him that he's obtained the rank S Wolf Sword, an insane weapon capable of completely bypassing enemy defenses. Right after, the system also delivers a rank A set of armor, knowing it would take anyone else hundreds of battles to get something that rare. Our guy equips everything and feels the power surge through him. The better his gear, the more dungeons he can tackle to keep getting stronger. With that, he leaves the dungeon portal behind. Walking through the busy streets, our hero decides he's going to become the strongest using the reward system. Looking at the local public transportation, he notices that, aside from the fog and the monsters, this place isn't all that different from the world he came from. He then gets on a bus, planning to head home, gather his thoughts, and figure out his next move. However, during the ride, the dreaded mysterious fog begins closing in around the road fast. Inside, panic sets in and the passengers start screaming, terrified of being devoured or turning to stone. Knowing that ordinary people have no chance of surviving there, our hero decides to act fast and save them. He stands up from his seat and yells for everyone to calm down and stay where they are. Meanwhile, the driver floors it. At that very moment, a devastating energy rips through the floor of the vehicle, splitting it in two. From the impact, the bus ends up rolling over on the road, and the survivors cry out, screaming that they're done for without a chosen warrior. They despair. After all, these warriors are far too rare, and there was almost no chance one would be there to save them. But our guy emerges from the wreckage with ease, pushing aside the heavy metal debris with one hand. Looking at the survivors, he declares that he is a warrior chosen by the gods. A chubby man then begs the guy to hold the creature off for as long as possible, and points out the direction of a nearby rescue base. The man then asks what his class and level are, and our guy calmly replies that he's just a level 1 warrior. Hearing that, the chubby man's hopeful expression vanishes instantly. The people say that class is useless, and that they're all going to die before rescue arrives. In that world, the warrior class was considered the weakest, and was looked down on by everyone. But without caring about the criticism, our hero activates combat mode. His rank of armor equips instantly, boosting his defense to an insane degree. That's when a gigantic level 2 monster bursts through the pavement. With that, our guy draws the wolf sword. He knows that even at level 1, that weapon changes everything. With an agile leap, he charges at the beast, unleashing power on par with a level 3 warrior, and lands a precise strike that hits the creature's hide dead on. The slash generates a devastating impact. Our hero lands softly on the ground as the monster slides down the street. Even with the worst class of all, he realizes that with the reward selection system and his own drive, nothing would stop him. He's certain he can become the most powerful being in that entire world. To seal the victory, he charges straight toward the beast's open mouth, and with one insane vertical slash, he splits the creature's entire body in half from the inside out. The bus survivors can barely believe that a mere warrior just took down a level 2 monster that fast. While the people thank him, he glances at his system screen and complains that he didn't get any rewards this time. Without paying much attention to the thanks, the guy just waves with his back turned and keeps walking. Shortly after, a young woman examines the monster's remains and concludes that whoever did this needs to be recruited. Behind the police tape, she asks the witnesses who was responsible for taking down that creature. The chubby man replies it was a level 1 warrior, but that he had already left. She's intrigued, wondering how a weak warrior managed to pull that off. Meanwhile, by late afternoon, our protagonist finally arrives at the building where the body's previous owner lived. He's immediately greeted by threatening graffiti left by vandals. That's when a cocky loan shark shows up mocking him, saying he figured the poor guy had run off to skip out on his debt. Digging through his new memories, he finds out the body's previous owner owed that guy an insane amount of money. The deceased had borrowed money to buy a powerful class, but failed miserably, leaving the debt behind as an inheritance. Even under pressure, our guy firmly grabs the loan shark's hand and reminds him they had agreed on 3 more days. But the thug grabs him by the collar, saying he owes 5 million yen and could never pay it back. But he eventually lets the guy go and warns he'll be back in 3 days to collect the money or take the apartment for good. Once inside the apartment, our guy wonders how he's going to come up with that kind of money in so little time. That's when his phone buzzes with new notifications. He opens an online marketplace and sees listings from people paying fortunes for rare weapons obtained in dungeons. With that, he realizes he can use his system to get S-class weapons, sell them, and pay off the entire debt. Well, a little debt isn't going to get in the way of his plans to rise to the top of that world. Sitting on his couch, he studies his memories and discovers that besides the fog zones, there are regular dungeons perfect for training. Analyzing his options, he knows that going into dungeons and gathering items is the best plan to make money. But in level 1 dungeons, even the most expensive S-class items barely sell for 700,000 on the market. And since you're only allowed to enter 1 dungeon per day, getting 5 million in just 3 days would be impossible. But then he thinks back to how easily he took down that level 2 monster and realizes he already has the power to take on level 3 challenges. With that settled, he finally relaxes and leaves the problems for tomorrow. The next day, our hero heads to the outskirts of the city in search of a level 3 dungeon. The city center was safe thanks to the chosen warriors, keeping the fog at bay, but the outskirts were a whole different story. The rule was simple. The farther from the center, the more dangerous the zones and dungeons became. However, greater danger also meant infinitely better rewards. As he approaches a level 2 portal, he spots a group of hunters, and to his surprise, they're the same cowards from yesterday, who, upon seeing him alive, call him over to be the group's shield again. But our guy completely ignores them, saying he's going to try his luck in a level 3 dungeon on his own. The group leader starts laughing dismissively, mocking that useless warriors like him should be washing dishes somewhere. The blonde also mocks him, saying he nearly died in a level 1 dungeon. Our hero listens in silence, agreeing that the previous owner of that body really did have a rough life, but with the reward system on his side, luck now belonged entirely to him. The smug guy keeps taunting him, reminding him that he blew everything to change classes and now has to pay off his debts. That's when our guy warns them that collecting that debt is going to be a lot harder for them now. "What did this idiot just say?" they ask. As our guy walks away, they ask if he even knew he was used as bait. Ignoring their chatter, the guy steps up to the glowing blue portal of a level 3 dungeon. The system screen pops up warning that the challenge level far exceeds his own. But since he doesn't have any other option, he decides to push forward without hesitation. In that instant, he steps through the dimensional rift. Stepping out on the other side, the system activates a clear objective. He must eliminate every bandit in that fortress. Stretching his arms, he notices that the ancient setting looks completely different from the real world, consumed by the fog. After all, from his memories, each dungeon has its own story and setting, and he'll need to clear them to level up. Just as he was about to move forward, a new group comes through the portal, noting that since he's in a level 3 dungeon, he probably isn't a rookie. The one-eyed man, acting as the group's leader, draws his weapon and orders everyone to reveal their class and level. The system then displays the 4 fighters' stats: 2 experienced shooters, a mysterious assassin, and a healer, all at level 3. Our hero notices that, even though they're a makeshift group, having a warrior like him would make the team perfectly balanced. But the new companion's reaction changes completely when they see the guy is just a level 1 warrior. The healer gets furious, snapping that he'd just be dead weight since his level is too low to even work as a shield. However, the others notice that the gear the guy is carrying is actually of extremely high quality. The leader concludes he must be just another rich kid with expensive gear, but agrees to bring him along to see what he can do. Hearing that, the guy bursts out laughing. If he were actually rich, he wouldn't be there fighting to pay off debts. Without wasting time, the one-eyed man starts laying down orders and decides our protagonist will act as the team's shield. He even gives the guy a friendly pat on the shoulder, assuring him that the healer would be there to patch him up after any injury. But our hero brushes the man's hand away and makes it clear he's not going to blindly charge the front line just because he's a warrior. He knew very well that the previous owner of that body died exactly that way, and he wasn't about to make the same mistake twice. The others push back, arguing that shooters can't be on the front line, but the guy fires right back. Annoyed by the refusal, the leader warns he'll be on his own with no healing, but the guy shrugs it off, knowing they'd stab him in the back anyway. Suddenly, the wooden gates of the fortress are blown open. An old man, identified by the system as a fortress resident, begs for help, saying the bandits are right behind him. At that very moment, a system alert appears in the sky, starting a countdown to the enemy invasion. Moments later, the raiders pour into the courtyard, and the group quickly gets into position to start the fight. Our guy figures it'll be an easy challenge, since his allies have guns while the enemies only have swords. But then the invaders start moving with insane speed, easily dodging shots fired point blank. Seeing that, our hero is surprised to notice that these men's reaction speed matches that of the fog monsters. The leader picks up on the threat and yells for his partner to focus the shots and cut off their escape route. The intense gunfire finally lands on the enemies, but even while injured, the bandits keep pushing forward without retreating an inch. Analyzing the fight up close, the guy notices that despite their speed, these opponents have low physical defense. That's when one of the bandits gets a running start and leaps through the air, heading straight for the healer. The girl panics as she sees the blade coming right at her, but before the worst can happen, our hero appears like a bolt of lightning in front of her. As his sword trembles against the blade, the bandit quickly realizes he's on a completely different level. In the blink of an eye, our guy delivers a brutal double slash that tears the attacker apart before he can even react. The one-eyed leader is impressed, watching a rank S weapon make a level 1 warrior that deadly. But the danger quickly escalates when the rest of the bandits surround our guy. Without showing any fear, he gets into his fighting stance and tells them all to come at once. But suddenly, a shot grazes right past his face. The shot hits the bandits surrounding him square on, taking them out from behind. Turns out, the shots came from his own allies. Our hero is furious when he realizes those idiots shot without caring if they'd hit him. The one-eyed man just flashes a smug grin, pretending it was just a combat accident. At that same moment, a barrage of shots hits the guy's armor, triggering the block notifications. If it weren't for his rank A armor, he would have been dead. Defending himself as best he can, he demands to know what the hell they're doing. The shooter laughs it off, saying the guy was just in the way. That's when our guy points forward and decides it's time to teach those cowards a lesson. He warns them they're about to find out exactly what it feels like to be used as a disposable shield. But before he can act, a massive iron wrecking ball destroys the fortress ceiling. From the dust emerges a giant man wielding a terrifying chain weapon. A system screen appears confirming that this monster is the dungeon's feared boss. Panic takes over everyone in the group. Desperate, the shooters activate their rapid-fire skills and unload everything they've got at the giant. But the bullets just bounce off the monster's skin, without leaving so much as a scratch. With a ground-shattering stomp, the giant cracks the floor and makes the entire structure shake. Then the monster winds up and launches itself toward the group. The creature lands and brutally crushes one of the shooters. Now the rest of them would have to face the Goliath. The one-eyed man runs, trying to save his own skin as the monster relentlessly chases him. That's when the coward points at the boss and orders our guy to attack it and draw its attention. But the guy sees right through the selfish plan to use him as a shield and decides the one-eyed man is the one who's going to feel real terror. Pretending to comply, he charges into the fight, promising to handle the situation. Our hero strikes with his legendary sword, but the blade doesn't even scratch the giant's skin. With that, he concludes he's going to need a completely different strategy to take that beast down. Meanwhile, the leader yells for him to keep the boss's attention on him. And our guy agrees on the spot. That's when the giant's colossal fist slams into the ground with devastating force, blasting an enormous crater right in front of the one-eyed man. The system notifies that the boss's attention has been fully transferred and locked onto the guy. Seeing the giant charging straight at him, our guy gets ready to lead the danger exactly where he wants it. He skillfully dodges another heavy blow. In the air, he notices the monster remains completely locked onto his movements. So he starts running straight in the direction of the leader and yells at the one-eyed man to stop running and fight by his side. But the man begs the guy to get away from him. But the monster strikes again, destroying everything around the one-eyed man. With another devastating blow, the boss launches the man into the air without any mercy. Taking advantage of the distraction, our guy appears from behind and delivers a precise slash to the giant's neck. That's when the coward finally realizes he was used as bait. With total composure, the guy asks him if he now understands the true value of having a warrior on the front line. He keeps running and pulling the monster along, while the one-eyed man crawls on the ground, begging for help. In desperation, the healer screams for them to get back. She then pulls out a magic scroll capable of trapping low-level targets in a cage for 10 seconds. At that instant, an energy cage materializes, trapping the boss and the one-eyed man together. The one-eyed man panics. He pounds against the energy walls, while behind him, the boss's enormous silhouette closes in. The poor guy still tries to beg for his life, but the giant doesn't give him time to negotiate and brutally grabs the man with its massive hand. In that same instant, a spray of blood erupts through the arena, and the system confirms the leader's instant death. Our guy is horrified, saying he just wanted to teach him a lesson, but never expected things to go that far. But without showing any remorse, our guy keeps his focus on the real problem, the boss. The survivors ask if he's really going to fight alone, but the guy just pushes forward, saying he already has a plan. He grips his legendary weapon and reminds himself that you never know the outcome until you try. With only 5 seconds left, before the cage disappears, the system alerts him that the giant is still completely locked onto him. Our hero mentally calculates that, even as strong as he is, the boss must already be weakened from the group's earlier attacks. The countdown ticks down to 3 seconds. He recalls that this dungeon has been explored before, and that there's definitely a way to clear it if you attack the right way. With only 1 second left, the guy braces for his one decisive attack. The scroll's effect expires, and the barrier shatters completely. In a quick and deadly burst, our hero shoots toward the monster like a bolt of light. A deafening explosion of wind and dust blasts the 2 remaining allies backward from the impact. A second later, the giant collapses to the ground. Our guy had pierced right through its neck. His strategy had worked perfectly. That's when the system congratulates the guy on his victory and notifies him that he just leveled up to level 2 from the points earned. With that, he concludes that even the strongest defense crumbles if you hit its weak point with precision. With the dungeon cleared, the system releases a chest and several rare rewards. That's when the healer walks up to him. She tries to demand a share of the loot, claiming she helped in the fight and that they lost 2 allies in the process. But our hero fires back coldly, saying she should be grateful he's not making her pay for being used as bait. Sensing the tension, the assassin pulls the girl away before things get worse. However, our protagonist draws his sword again and orders both of them to stop right where they are. Terrified, the 2 raise their hands and point out that the guild forbids warriors from killing each other inside dungeons. But our hero just smiles and reminds them that if it weren't for him, they'd both be dead, and the least they can do is thank him. Trembling, the pair stutters out desperate thanks for having their lives saved by him. Then the 2 vanish in beams of light. Right after, the reward selection system activates, offering 3 rare items from the treasure chest. Going into a higher level dungeon definitely boosted the quality of the drops. His eyes light up when he sees he can choose rank SS skill books, something extremely rare on the market. The system details the new abilities, revealing that he'll be able to train swordsmanship at a ridiculous pace, even while sleeping. He smiles, noticing that, even though the effects are stronger for assassins, a warrior like him can master them all the same. Remembering the struggle he had dodging the boss's attacks, he knows he needs to boost his speed as soon as possible. Our hero decides to grab the firearm skill just to sell it. After all, it'd be worth at least 1,000,000 yen. Standing before the massive portal, he concludes that with these new powers, he'll be able to do far more than just pay off his debts. He could claim every last treasure hidden in the dungeons. Back in the real world, he shouts to the sky that his new power is going to give him the chance to change the entire world. He pulls out his phone to immediately look up prices for the rarest skills on the market. He browses the listings and decides to set an eye-catching starting price, planning to cash in big on buyer bidding wars. Suddenly, his phone buzzes with a notification, and he realizes rare skill books are in fierce demand. He smiles when he gets an offer of 1,200,000 yen for an in-person trade the next morning. And of course, he accepts on the spot. Walking through the alley back to his building, he decides to head straight home and test out his new dream training ability. Later that night, as darkness falls over the city, our guy drifts off to sleep on his bed, wrapped in a glowing aura. The system then activates in his mind, notifying him that he has just entered the mysterious dream world. He floats in a completely empty, dark space, wondering if this is the training platform for his new ability. As he examines his own body, he notices his senses are razor sharp in that endless void. Suddenly, a strange sound catches his attention, revealing an identical copy of himself. A system screen appears ordering him to defeat his opponent. Without any warning, the copy charges forward with a fast downward strike, which our guy blocks at the last second. With an excited grin on his face, our guy finds the whole situation extremely interesting and gets ready to counter. He throws a powerful slash and concludes that to truly get stronger and make it to the top, he'll need to overcome himself first. Meanwhile, in a secret room, agents keep a mysterious prisoner strapped to a chair. The young woman from earlier explains that the enemy leader, known as the Prophet, failed to predict this prisoner's existence. Her superior asks if this man could be the key to breaking the enemy's predictions, and she confirms. To that end, she reveals she's already ordered a door-to-door search of every home along that bus route. She hopes they can track him down as quickly as possible. Completely unaware of all this, our guy wakes up the next morning, yawning from exhaustion. Walking through the streets, he grumbles that fighting hundreds of clones of himself in a dream is absolutely exhausting. Even while tired, he's curious to know if last night's effort actually paid off and decides to check his stats. That's when the system pops up floating in front of him, showing that he mastered 2 incredible new abilities while he slept. To his surprise, his basic sword technique jumped all the way to level 3 in just a single night of sleep. Even if it drains a ton of energy, our hero is thrilled. Getting stronger just by sleeping is a godlike ability. Setting that aside, there was the buyer for his items. Ignoring the tough guy act, our guy keeps calmly walking toward the meeting spot. The big guy steps down from where he was standing and gruffly asks if he's the seller and where the rare skill book is. And without saying a single word, our hero materializes the skill book right before his eyes. He holds out the glowing item and makes it crystal clear. It's a simple deal, cash on one side, goods on the other. The giant is shocked that a mere level 2 warrior managed to get a drop that rare and valuable. However, when he checks the payment transfer on his screen, the system alerts him that the amount sent was far less than expected. Our guy immediately questions why he only received 800,000 when they agreed on 1,200,000. Instead of answering, the smug guy pulls out a massive revolver and aims it straight at the guy's face, laughing and saying that amount is already way too generous for a lowly warrior. But in the blink of an eye, a massive shockwave explodes through the alley. With total ease, our guy grabs the tough guy by the throat and lifts him into the air. Looking him dead in the eyes, the guy asks with a twisted grin if the idiot really thought a level 4 could take down a level 2 warrior. Choking and desperate, the scammer starts begging for his life, swearing he'll never underestimate the warrior class again. With total amusement, he says he was just messing around and tells the crook to transfer the rest of the agreed amount before he changes his mind. The system screen then updates, confirming he received the full amount plus an extra 200,000 yen as a stress compensation fee. With that, our guy tosses the skill book on the ground and tells him to pick it up already. In tears, the man thanks him and says that with that book, he can finally try his luck in the dreaded 12-player Cataclysm dungeon. Always chasing a good opportunity, our hero's interest is piqued by the name, and he asks the man what the heck that dungeon even is. The giant then explains that this challenge is the hottest topic in the forums right now and draws hunters from all over the world. The level 5 dungeon is a full-on zombie apocalypse scenario where hunters need to survive for 3 straight days. Because of the insane death rate, the place is known as the Graveyard of Beginners. Whoever survives walks away with unimaginable treasures. Searching on his phone, our guy finds listings for rare weapons obtained there worth millions of yen and realizes this is his golden opportunity. The big guy warns him that the survival rate is under 1% and that going in at just level 2 is insane. But our guy knows that the bigger the risk, the bigger and more insane the final reward will be. Shortly after he arrives at the location, several experienced hunters are gathered around the portal. Some arrogant veterans start mocking our guy, laughing at the fact that he's a regular warrior at such a low level. Ignoring the taunting, the guy activates the level 5 dungeon panel. Then he looks at the group and tells them that since everyone's ready, it's time to get started. As he steps through the portal, he's transported to the top of a building. But then a system message warns him he's been separated from his group and advises him to find them to improve his chances of survival. With that, our hero decides to disguise the appearance of his rare armor and concludes that, even at level 2, he's far stronger than the others and prefers to go it alone. The system recommends he go after the group's healer, but our guy ignores the warning and focuses solely on getting valuable loot to pay off his debt. He decides to enter an abandoned convenience store to search for useful supplies for the journey. Once inside, he starts going through the shelves, looking for anything useful. And to his surprise, alongside bandages and energy drinks, he finds his absolute favorite brand of instant noodles. Suddenly, the hunter from before bursts into the store. He was being chased by an insane zombie horde. Spotting him, the man cries out that he's finally saved, now that he found another warrior. Without wasting a second, our guy draws his wolf hunter sword. With an agile and precise move, he charges into the horde and starts cutting through the monsters with total ease. In the end, he concludes that even when you're not looking for trouble, trouble always finds you. While decapitating another zombie, he orders the hunter to stop just standing there and provide cover immediately. In a deadly and devastating spin, he unleashes a wave of slashes that dismembers dozens of undead at once. However, our guy notices that even after taking out the first wave, an endless stream of zombies keeps pouring into the store. With that in mind, he wonders if those creatures are being drawn in by the smell of blood from their own fallen allies. That's when a strange and incredibly irritating buzzing sound starts echoing through the store. Looking outside, he spots a strange zombie with glowing green eyes leading the rest of the horde. The bizarre creature starts emitting sound waves directly from its chest. Our guy quickly figures out that those sound vibrations are what's drawing and guiding the entire horde toward them. Even though the monsters are slow, the horde has completely blocked the only exit from the store. With that in mind, he decides he needs to focus on taking out the noisy zombie as fast as possible to stop the summoning call. He then turns to the shooter, Wang DeYang, and orders him to use everything he's got to draw the zombie's attention. But the poor guy panics, claiming a shooter like him could never pull that off alone. But our hero tells him to just trust the plan and hold on for a mere 5 seconds. The shooter agrees, and our guy quickly opens his status screen to spend a free point he had saved up. He tells the system to put the point straight into agility. With his speed instantly boosted, he gets a running start and clears the shooter in one easy leap. At that same moment, Wang Dayang unloads his shotgun into the monsters at the front. Taking advantage of the opening and his momentum, the guy glides through the air with incredible speed. He targets his attack from above, dropping like a bolt straight down toward the noisy zombie. With a devastating vertical slash, he splits the mutant leader in two. But as bad luck would have it, the surrounding zombies go into a frenzy. A system screen pops up warning that by killing the commander, all nearby zombies have entered rage mode, gaining extra speed and defense. Without giving him time to think, one of the creatures charges at him furiously. Our guy reacts quickly and strikes the monster, but feels its body is way tougher than before. He realizes their defense spiked drastically and concludes that if he keeps fighting there, he could end up getting cornered. On the other hand, he notices no new zombies are coming into the store. He just needs to carve a path out. With that, he raises his sword and declares that nothing is going to stop him from making it to the top of this world. Suddenly, a deafening scream echoes through the store. Desperate, the shooter warns he's at his limit and can't hold out much longer. But our guy hesitates, reminding himself that in this world, the strong survive, and he shouldn't risk his life for a complete stranger. Meanwhile, the shooter fights with everything he's got and shouts that he trusts him because he's the strongest warrior he's ever seen. Seeing that, our guy sighs and just can't help himself from stepping in, and a crushing golden aura begins radiating from his body. The monsters around him seem to sense the immense pressure of the power our hero just unleashed. Like lightning, he charges forward and decapitates the remaining zombies with fast, brutal strikes. Relieved to see the danger has passed, his partner celebrates and thanks him for the help. But our hero cuts the celebration short, grabbing the big guy by the collar. He throws the shooter over his back and winds up to leap clear over the rest of the horde. The poor shooter loses his mind. Well, carrying that big guy is draining his energy way faster than he expected. To compensate for the weight, he activates his wind control skill on his feet to gain speed. Using the zombies' heads as stepping stones, he launches himself at full speed into the distance. With one final effort, they finally manage to escape the store and leave the entire horde behind. With that, our guy declares he's ready for whatever challenge comes next. Walking through the silent streets of the ghost city, the two move forward on high alert. The shooter comments that he figured high-risk dungeons would be a lot scarier than this. But suddenly, a hunter comes running and begging for help. A colossal shadow was leaping between buildings right behind him. At that very moment, a massive purple demon crashes down from above, crushing the poor guy into the ground without any mercy. Facing that terrifying creature, our hero braces for the worst, but the monster just walks right past them and keeps going. The shooter asks if the creature seriously just ignored them, and the guy concludes that they simply weren't its target. Shortly after, the two arrive at an open area where other hunters are celebrating, having escaped that terrifying monster. That's when an armed shooter named Shihao approaches them and remarks that the two got really lucky to make it out alive. The man then explains that the regular zombies here are weak, and the guy asks why that giant monster didn't attack them. Shihao reveals that the zombie king only hunts at sunrise and sunset, and that surviving is as simple as hiding in a sealed room. However, he warns that the beast will keep hunting if it doesn't claim 2 victims a day, something he considers unavoidable. He then leads them to a safe shelter in the building, a place set up with couches and tables for hunters to rest. Looking over the shelter's menu, our hero sees that basic items like food and medicine can be purchased with points. However, he finds it really strange that bottled water is the most expensive and scarce item on the list. He walks up to a faucet and figures that drinkable water must be the most valuable and scarce resource in the entire dungeon. But just before he touches the sink, an elderly man appears warning him not to do it. The old man explains that the water in that room has been contaminated for a long time. Noticing something off about the man, our hero begins to suspect his reactions are far too slow. That's when he looks at the drain and is startled to see dark, sinister roots growing out from inside the pipes. He immediately recognizes those strange roots, remembering he saw the same bizarre thing growing on the body of the dead hunter outside. Meanwhile, in the center of the shelter, the hunters complain about not having enough points to buy food and medical supplies. But our guy goes straight to the terminal and decides to spend his points buying 10 bottles of water, completely emptying the supply. The other hunters call him crazy for wasting points, mocking that warriors are always the first to die in there. But Wang Dayong is furious at the insults and defends the hero, insisting he's incredibly strong and that he saw his power up close. With a smug grin, Shihao suggests the warrior be the one in charge of guarding the shelter's door that night. The guy questions why he would do that, but the smug ones insist that the only use of his class is to serve as a physical shield. Shihao explains that monsters pile up at night and that if any infected are left by dawn, the zombie king will invade the shelter. He concludes with a smirk that, like it or not, our protagonist will have to guard the entrance to keep everyone safe. But our guy warns them they should first worry about surviving that very night. Shortly after, night falls over the dungeon, and a massive horde of undead begins surrounding the building. Alone in the dark hallway, the guy takes out the monsters trying to get close. Watching him head out, Shihao asks why he's going to get water when he could just exchange his points in the shelter's system. On the other side, a blonde hunter comments that the zombie king always hunts down and kills the player with the highest score in the dungeon. Dayong appears in a panic, screaming that they're setting a trap, but the blonde fires back, saying the guy has already racked up way too many points. Our hero finally sees through the group's cowardly plan, push all the killing onto him so he becomes the perfect bait for the boss. Staring coldly at the traitors, he warns them that using him as bait will bring consequences they really don't want to see. In the middle of the night, while resting, a system screen pops up, confirming that his sleep cultivation skill leveled up. Suddenly, a deafening crash makes the entire building shake violently. The cowards panic, unable to figure out how the zombie king got there when there was no infected person in that room. But to everyone's horror, the elderly man from before transforms into a zombie. Before they can react, the shelter's ceiling starts cracking. With a massive explosion, the structure completely collapses. The dreaded Zombie King crashes down into the middle of the shelter. Shihao and his partner believe the monster is going straight for the guy because he has the highest score. But in the blink of an eye, the boss crushes Shihao's head in a shower of blood. Seeing that, our hero confirms his suspicion that the boss's hunting criteria never had anything to do with accumulated points. He recalls that the monster ignored him in the first encounter and went after the injured one, and deduces that the targets are only those with the roots. Our guy reveals they had the rules of the game completely wrong. The Zombie King's real target isn't whoever has the most points, it's whoever is infected with those roots. The real victims are all those who had direct contact with the contaminated water source. In the beginning, players would go all out to earn points and trade them for the little clean water left at the shelter terminal. But when the points ran out, they risked using the tap water, not knowing it would turn them into easy targets. Back to the present, he points his sword at the creature, determined to finish it off once and for all. But first, he decides to slash the root that caused all this mess with a quick cut. Furious at the guy's boldness, the monster lets out a deafening roar and charges in full force. The beast slams the ground, destroying the entire structure, but our hero is faster and dodges by leaping backward. Seeing the beast has completely lost it, the guy yells for the others to run as fast as they can. He orders everyone to stay away from the water, promising he'll draw the monster away on his own. While relentlessly chasing the guy, the giant tears through the hallway walls. Our guy manages to lure the beast into a narrow corridor where the monster's size works against it. Taking advantage of the terrain, he leaps toward the ceiling and delivers a powerful strike against the giant. However, the Zombie King counters quickly, forcing the guy to pull back midair to avoid getting crushed. Gasping for breath, he realizes the beast's raw strength is far too overwhelming for a direct fight, so he decides to use the narrow walls to his advantage, building momentum to attack from an angle impossible to dodge. Face to face with death, our hero knows that a single step will decide who walks out of this alive. The giant's devastating punch explodes against the wall, but the guy escapes by the skin of his teeth. He slides beneath the monster, using every inch of the cramped corridor to get into the perfect position for a counter. Sword at the ready, he prepares to land the final blow, aiming straight at the creature's exposed weak point. But the Zombie King raises its hand and grabs the sharp blade, blocking the attack. Our guy's eyes go wide, unable to understand how that blind beast predicted his move with such precision. Sensing the danger, he pushes off and leaps backward as the monster unleashes a crushing shockwave all around it. Without a second thought, he runs and dives into a dark room, trying to throw the creature off his trail for a while. Hidden, he notices the giant walks straight past and seems to act as if it were completely blind again. He tries to figure out the mystery behind that monster's sight. Our hero heads back through the dark hallways on high alert, watching for any strange sounds. But suddenly, the beast blasts through the concrete wall right next to him, appearing out of nowhere with a surprise attack. He dodges on pure instinct, wondering how the monster found him, even though he was completely out of its line of sight. That's when a regular zombie drops from the ceiling to attack him from behind. With a quick spin of his sword, our guy cuts it in half without the slightest effort. That's when it finally clicks, and he starts to understand the strange truth behind the boss's sight. The Zombie King doesn't need to see for itself. It uses the eyes of every infected as cameras throughout the dungeon. Knowing that, our hero decides the only way to win is by clearing every regular zombie from the corridor first. He charges through like a storm, cutting down each one of the undead. With the corridor cleared, he grins as he notices the giant has truly lost track of him and gone blind. Suddenly, the deafening sound of rushing water begins echoing through the entire building structure. He looks back and sees pipes bursting, releasing a massive amount of filthy water everywhere. In a panic, the survivors run to escape the flood. However, one of the fleeing hunters falls into the contaminated water and starts thrashing around. Within seconds, the man transforms into another monster. Our guy realizes the dungeon is using the building's own sewage system to spread the infection and build an endless army. The system overcharges for clean water on purpose, forcing hunters into contact with the filth so they turn into monsters. He shouts to Daiyong, asking if the building's electricity is still working, and his partner confirms the lights are still on. With a brilliant plan in mind, our hero smiles, knowing exactly how to use all that water to fry the Zombie King for good. Well, the power is still on, which means the building's elevators can still be used. Without wasting a second, he starts running toward the elevator shaft. He notices the Zombie King uses the regular creatures to guide its way through the water, and decides to lure the monster into the trap alone. But then one of the survivors grabs his arm, furious, accusing the guy of running away and bringing the danger down on them. With a cold stare, our guy simply warns that if they want to live, they need to stay far away from that contaminated water. As the beast's terrifying shadow starts closing in behind them, he breaks free and runs toward the elevator. He quickly hits the call button, hoping the car arrives in time. But the creature is too fast and appears right in front of him. Keeping his cool, our hero expertly dodges the monster's first lethal strikes. Taking advantage of the door opening, he leaps inside the elevator to set his plan in motion. With a precise swing of his sword, he destroys the elevator ceiling, opening a path up into the elevator shaft. The Zombie King takes the bait and starts climbing after him. To throw the beast off, he decides to use the shaft walls and start a game of hide-and-seek. Nimbly, he grabs onto the concrete wall's ridges to climb higher, and climbs as fast as he can. Scanning the structure around him, he looks for the best spot between the platforms to hide. That's when he notices the car on the other side is completely damaged, held in place by just 2 steel cables. His plan is simple: get the giant to leap onto that damaged car and knock it off balance. To start, he throws a rock in the opposite direction, grabbing the Zombie King's attention with the noise. Just as expected, the beast leaps with full force onto the car, falling right into the guy's trap. With a quick slash, he severs the steel cables, sending the Zombie King plummeting into the abyss along with the elevator. As the monster falls, our guy leaps right after it, delivering an aerial attack with everything he's got. The blade strikes the beast's shoulder dead on. Even wounded, the creature grabs tightly onto the cables to stop the fall. Then the giant winds up to crush our hero with a massive punch. The monstrous fist grazes right past the guy, destroying part of the shaft wall. Taking advantage of the dodge, our guy launches himself into the air, making it clear the monster won't get away this time. With a relentless stare, he channels all his power into a vertical slash. The brutal blow cuts the monster clean in two, sending blood splattering all through the elevator shaft. Landing on solid ground, he takes a deep breath, certain he's finally won that battle. The survivors rush toward him, amazed that he took down the boss all by himself. But our guy finds it strange that the system still hasn't sent a victory notification. Suddenly, a strange noise from the top of the shaft makes him look up. From the ceiling, a grotesque horde of tentacle-wrapped zombies starts raining down. Surrounded by contaminated water and roots, despair takes over again. More mutant creatures start crawling out from the surge of water. He realizes that taking out the Zombie King was just the beginning. Analyzing everything, our hero concludes that the water, the roots, and the zombies are all connected. He decides the only way to stop the mutation for good is by destroying the source of the sewage. So he sends the shooter to guide the survivors and pushes forward alone through the underground pipes. Each step he takes in the sewage is muffled by a thick layer of fleshy, pulsating roots. When he reaches the center of the drainage system, he comes face to face with a scene straight out of a nightmare. But it was exactly what he expected to find at the heart of that dungeon. Before him, the true boss appears. A colossal mass of flesh, teeth, and dozens of pulsating eyes. By defeating that disgusting thing, he'll finally be able to clear the dungeon with a perfect score. But before he can act, a colossal tentacle lined with sharp teeth lunges at him, forcing our hero to leap back. Caught in a pincer attack, he knows he needs to find an opening to advance against the core. Without wasting time, he picks up momentum and charges at high speed. Suddenly, the creature starts rapidly closing in, squeezing the guy's room to escape. But then, a red root coils tightly around his leg. Taking advantage of him being pinned, the infected surge forward hungrily, trying to grab our guy at any cost. With a quick swing of his sword, he cuts the root, pinning him down and wipes out the zombies, trying to surround him. Landing on his feet, our hero realizes that if he keeps fighting this way, he'll end up completely cornered sooner or later. That's when he spots the electrical distribution box glowing near the pooled water. He remembers that the building still has power. Knowing the roots function like the monster's blood vessels, he plans to use the electricity to fry the beast from the inside out. So he runs toward the electrical cables and yells to bait the giant into following him. And it works perfectly. The beast takes the bait and advances with all its roots, reaching toward our guy. At exactly the right moment, he draws his sword and cuts clean through the high-voltage cables, releasing a monstrous electrical surge. Gripping the cable, he channels the high-voltage current directly into the roots, soaking in the sewage water. The devastating shock courses through the entire root system, electrocuting the colossal monster instantly. Weakened by the electricity, the creature splits wide open, revealing its glowing and exposed core. Knowing it's finally time to deliver the finishing blow and end this for good, our guy flashes a grin and drives forward, bringing his sharp sword straight down onto the abomination's weak point. The precise vertical slash splits the core in two, and a deafening explosion of energy purifies the entire area. When the dust settles, the creature begins disintegrating into beams of light, and the system screen confirms his absolute victory. Then 3 mysterious chests appear floating before him as a final reward. The 2 surviving companions then reappear, and our guy calmly tells them to choose their rewards first. The dark-haired one quickly grabs one of the smaller chests and thanks him from the bottom of his heart, knowing he only survived because of the guy's insane power. The other guy also steps up to grab his, aware that once everyone collects their items, they'll be teleported out. But when he looks back, he senses a terrifying presence. Afraid of setting off the monster in front of him, he hastily grabs the weakest chest and says that simple reward is more than enough. With a friendly smile, our hero thanks them for their generosity and gets ready to claim the best and most valuable chest remaining. At that very instant, the exclusive selection system activates, revealing that he was the first to ever clear the dungeon with a perfect score. Several legendary item cards begin spinning before him, and he quickly selects an incredible rank SS weapon to start looting. The system then asks if he wants to use one more exchange chance to go after hidden rewards. He reflects that since he's a warrior, he can't use staffs or bows, and decides to risk it all on the unknown hidden rewards. Our guy hopes to get the special abilities of the Zombie King and the Mother Plant, which would be infinitely more useful to him. A notification quickly confirms that he's successfully obtained a new ability. The first card reveals the Shared Vision ability, letting him see through other creatures. Next, he gets the Consciousness Control ability, perfect for dominating the minds of his targets. But suddenly, our hero's eyes go wide. He knows the rewards should be fixed, but it seems like the system heard his thoughts and shaped the rewards exactly the way he wanted. With that, he feels as if a hidden presence has been watching him closely all along. That's when he comes face to face with an abandoned container stamped with a mysterious symbol on its doors. The emblem of an eye inside a triangle makes it clear this was no ordinary dungeon. Our guy concludes that the Mother Plant was brought here on purpose by someone, since these creatures don't enter dungeons on their own. Both the monsters and the system's rewards show clear signs of being artificially manipulated by outside parties. A disturbing question crosses his mind. Could even the terrible fog of the gray zone have been created by humans? Now that he has this valuable clue in hand, he swears he's going to dig deep until he uncovers every truth behind it. No matter how big the secret organization is, our hero knows he's finally taken the first step toward exposing their game. The final system screen locks in his rewards and confirms that he leveled up twice in one go, reaching level 4. His stats are updated, displaying his new abilities and confirming his insane progress as a warrior to be reckoned with. Satisfied with the outcome, he heads back to the real world. He pulls out his phone and is surprised to see that the bids on the legendary musket have already surpassed the impressive mark of 3 million. When he receives an offer of 3,600,000 for an in-person delivery, he accepts the deal immediately. With enough money to pay off his debt and new cards up his sleeve, our guy knows his position in the world has changed completely. Shortly after, he arrives at the impressive professional commerce center to meet the buyer and close the deal. He hands the legendary weapon to the buyer, and the system notifies the receipt of the windfall, leaving his bank account loaded. The buyer, an elegantly dressed man in an overcoat escorted by henchmen, mentions he's heard rumors about a weak warrior with rare items. Without flinching, our guy stares the man down and asks if he's there to do business or to dig into his personal life. The rich man forces a smile and insists that logically, legendary gear of that level should never end up in the hands of a beginner. With a cold and threatening stare, our guy tells the man to mind his own business and focus on the purchase he just made. Ending the conversation, he turns his back on the group and heads off down the stairs toward the outskirts of the city. After paying off his entire massive debt, he stares at a balance of just 200 yen, and even though it's almost nothing, he's relieved. Just a little sad. But then, catching a glimpse in a shop window reflection, our guy notices the buyer's sunglasses, wearing henchmen, are still on his tail. Well, he figured that guy would send henchmen to keep tabs on him, so he ducks into an alley. But when the two goons enter the alley, they walk straight into a dead end and wonder where he disappeared to. From the top of a building, our guy watches them with amusement, getting a kick out of those amateurs' terrible tracking skills. He understands that being just a low-level warrior, selling items that rare and valuable, is always going to attract unwanted attention. Walking down the avenue, he spots a large digital billboard advertising recruitment for the Gray Zone Administration Office. With a smile, he realizes working there would be the perfect cover to explain where his rare gear came from. So he walks into the building's modern lobby, packed with experienced hunters looking for valuable missions, and goes straight to the counter, telling the receptionist he wants to take on one of the high-tier missions on the office board. When she checks the guy's profile in the system, the staff member is completely taken aback to see he's just a level 4 warrior. Some veteran hunters nearby burst out laughing, mocking him for trying to take on such a difficult mission at such a low level. Suddenly, the office's vice president walks in, demanding silence, and asks the receptionist what all the commotion in the lobby is about. The man warns that a weak warrior would only waste his time, since the gray zone is already under control. But with complete nerve, our guy flashes a sarcastic smirk and tells the man not to count his chickens before they hatch. He states with total conviction that a terrible gray zone outbreak is going to happen today, right in the middle of the city's central plaza. The vice president fumes at the comment. Turning his back, he warns that they'll come begging for his help when the alarm goes off, but that he'll charge a whole lot more when that happens. Annoyed by the guy's arrogance, the wealthy man just grumbles, figuring he's just another rookie trying to get attention. As he walks through the city's beautiful plaza, our hero begins mentally reviewing every detail of the recent fog incidents. He knows that small outbreaks tend to appear in civilian-heavy areas, while the large dungeons form near areas already affected. Analyzing the map, he notices the sequence of attacks is funneling straight from the outskirts toward the exact center of the main plaza. Sitting calmly on a park bench, he watches the fountain and concludes that the exact moment of the next collapse is right now. At that very instant, red emergency alert screens take over the entire city, spreading panic among everyone on the streets. Back at the administration office, the vice president slams his fist on the table, shocked to see that the guy's warning was real. As the black smoke begins rising behind him in the plaza, our hero smiles, certain that the rich man will come crawling to beg for his help.